ask you first about this gambling scandal that's rocked the NBA. Of course, the NBA isn't the only league that's been dealing with this, other sports as well. But what is your message?
Yeah, I hear him throw that in there. Other sports. Now, look at Adam Silverface. He don't look like a happy man that wants to talk about
that question right there. Is the WNBA on the verge of shutting down? Is no longer clickbait. It's a legitimate concern now being openly discussed by former sports executives who have negotiated billion-dollar media deals. As we approach the January 9th deadline, the situation is escalating fast. The WNBA Players Association has officially authorized a strike vote, and the owners have made it clear this is their final extension. After that date, there will be no further negotiations.
Gambling situation. Because the NBA did their own investigation and they swept all of this under the rug, which caused an investigation into the NBA. Well, the NBA released another statement a little bit after that, came out that he had to go meet with Capitol Hill, that they was doing a new investigation into the NBA, pretty much, and the WNBA. We haven't heard nothing come out from that investigation, y'all, and it's been about 3-4 months.
View 2. Here's what's actually on the table. The owners have proposed quadrupling the maximum salary, with the average player's salary rising to around $500,000. Minimum salaries would increase significantly as well. But there's one major sticking point the players refuse to move on: revenue sharing. They want a guaranteed percentage of league revenue regardless of whether the league is profitable. And that single issue is where these negotiations are completely breaking down. Nneka Ogwumike, the president of the Players Association, told ESPN on Friday that authorizing a strike vote is about giving the players as much leverage as possible. But that strategy comes with a serious flaw.
To fans who maybe worry about the game's integrity right now.
My message is the integrity is absolutely solid. So the scandal, as you called it, is an incident from 2.5 years ago involving one player who allegedly tipped other accomplices that he was going to be coming out of a game early because he was injured. But so that's, to me, an isolated incident so far. Having said that, we take it absolutely seriously. I understand from a fan standpoint that there's nothing more important than the integrity of the game. And I think, recently we put in some new rules around injury reporting just to address incidents like that, so that information is released as soon as it's known to the teams, and so that there's a level playing field of people who may be betting on the game, so they have the same information.
Both sides can walk away with just 48 hours notice. That's the reality of this situation. So what does a strike authorization actually accomplish when the owners can simply say, "We're done," and shut the entire operation down? That's leverage without teeth. It's a threat built on the assumption that the other side has more to lose than you do, and that assumption could be catastrophically wrong. Alexia from ESPN wrote something that really stood out. The players seem determined to break up with the league before the league breaks up with them. Sit with that framing for a moment. This isn't two sides working toward a compromise. This is a relationship where both parties are already looking for the exit. It's just a question of who walks away first.
Sports betting is booming, legalized, that is. But do you worry that the culture, the accessibility of it may be part of the problem here?
I mean, to your point, there's a huge growing legalized sports betting business, and now the prediction markets are part of that as well. There's also probably an even larger illegal sports betting market. So for me, the options are illegal betting or legal betting. And given that choice, we'd much rather there be legal betting where there's transparency. For example, in the case you mentioned before, we spotted it first along with the betting.
It's kind of early to even say that. That was Ogwumike's response when asked what would actually trigger a strike, just 2 days before the January 9th deadline. They're planning to decide whether to strike only 48 hours before the cutoff. But she also said something incredibly revealing. Aside from what we're looking for to get in revenue sharing, I'm not entirely sure what factors could potentially lead us to make a decision on the strike authorization vote. Translation: everything else in the deal is acceptable. Salaries? Fine. Benefits? Fine. Working conditions? Fine. The only deal breaker is revenue sharing. They're demanding a share of league revenue in a league that has never turned a profit in its 28-year history.
Submitted. Hold up. So they did catch you. Let's listen.
Transparency. For example, in the case you mentioned before, we spotted it first along with the betting companies because there was aberrational betting on the so-called unders for that game. So we think we're much better off if there's going to be betting, and there will be, that it be in a legal, transparent framework rather than be controlled, by bad forces.
Dave Sampson, a former Marlins executive who helped negotiate stadium deals and manage complex ownership situations, laid it out perfectly. This is the moment. Every single WNBA player is technically a free agent right now. There's no CBA, no contracts, no binding agreements that if you're a well-capitalized investor looking to launch a competing league, this is your opening. Project B already exists. It's backed by serious money. It promises equity to players. And 2 members of the 7-person executive committee that now controls the strike decision reportedly hold equity stakes in Project B. Let that sink in. The people deciding whether to blow up the WNBA have financial incentives for a competing league to succeed. Adam Silver knows this. The owners know this. The players should know this. Yet they're behaving as if they hold all the leverage. Interviews.
Wow, guys. You got to read the comments. Somebody said, "Where's our pick, Baldy?" That's what I want to know. Shaking my head. What is this? Somebody said, yeah, exactly. It's not just one player. It's not just one king, according to the indictment. Hold up. What is this saying? This scandal involved leaks from multiple teams. You had players or coaches with the Charlotte Hornets, the Toronto Raptors, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Orlando Magic, the Portland Trail Blazers, all alleged sharing non-public information. Now, that's what they was investigating. Non-public information. That was an investigation to W and the NBA about this non-public information. Now, with gamblers or friends.
Unpopular with whom? That's the question that exposes the entire illusion. Dan Lubatard suggested it would be culturally unpopular for the WNBA to fold, but unpopular with whom exactly? The 46,000 people who watched a Las Vegas Aces game on NBA TV. The 78,000 who tuned in for an Atlanta Dream game. A league that went 15 years without a single game reaching 1 million viewers, until Caitlin Clark arrived. The WNBA has operated at a financial loss every single year since its founding. The NBA has subsidized it for nearly 3 decades. And at some point, even the most patient investors are forced to ask the hard question. Is this ever going to work?
Think the access that crime rings and organized gamblers apparently have to NBA players and coaches should be serious concerns for the league, because it's clear that even those who are making millions of dollars are at risk for getting swept up in stuff. Billups made more than $100 million over the course of his Hall of Fame career. He made millions per year. Rozier has a contract worth about $26 million. Somebody say, how about the integrity of the league, the NBA? How do you have an FBI investigation on a player, but you fail to inform the party acquiring that player? Both the NBA and the Hornets knew of the investigation, but the Heat didn't. Where's the integrity? Wow. So somebody's spilling the beans. So when Terry Rozier got traded and let go, they didn't tell the Heat that he was a dirty player. Quite essentially, that's dirty. Gosh, this whole thing is getting spooky. I just got to be honest, man. But we're going to keep tracking this thing. We're going to keep monitoring this thing throughout the day. I'm waiting on the WNBA to turn their faces upside down about the referees. It's coming, y'all. Feel it. But get down in the comment section. Let me know y'all thoughts about this one. Keep them bells on. Until next time, shake the haters off. I'm out of here.
Here's the brutal economic reality. The players want to be paid like they're in a major American sports league. And they are in a major American sports league, one that loses money every single year. MLS players don't earn Premier League salaries. That's not how markets work. You don't get paid based on what sport you play, or what league you're geographically in. You get paid based on the revenue your league actually generates. The owners aren't being greedy. You can't be greedy with money you don't have. They're offering average salaries of around $500,000 in a league that doesn't generate enough revenue to cover those salaries. That's not greed. That's charity with a business card. And the players' response has been to authorize a strike, and demand more at us. Oh, let's talk about what happens if this whole thing collapses. Because right now, the expansion team model looks less like sustainable growth and more like a Ponzi scheme. You bring in new investors at inflated valuations to pay off the old investors who've been bleeding cash for years. The Golden State Valkyries paid $50 million for an expansion slot. The Toronto team paid the same. That money doesn't magically grow the league, it goes directly to existing owners. But what happens when those new owners realize they didn't buy into a growth story, they bought into a charity case? What happens when the next round of expansion cities looks at the financials and says, no thanks? The players seem convinced that last season's momentum, driven almost entirely by Caitlin Clark's drawing power, represents a permanent shift. They point to sold-out Indiana Fever games and playoff rating spikes as proof the league has turned a corner. But remove Caitlin Clark from the equation, and look at the numbers honestly. Average attendance without Fever games barely moved from previous years. TV ratings for non-Clark games remained near the bottom. One player created the illusion of growth, and now the entire player base wants to be paid, as if that growth is league-wide and permanent. Here's what the players don't seem to understand about leverage. Leverage only exists when the other side needs you more than you need them. In the NBA, that's true. Owners need the players because the players generate billions of dollars. The product doesn't exist without LeBron James or Stephen Curry. But in the WNBA, owners have been running a loss-making operation for 28 years. They don't need this league. They wanted it to succeed, but need? No. These owners have profitable NBA franchises and other investments. The WNBA has been a passion project that's increasingly starting to feel like a financial headache. Meanwhile, the players desperately need the WNBA. Without it, they're playing overseas for less money and worse conditions, or betting on project be becoming something real and sustainable, which is far from guaranteed. So when players authorize a strike, they're effectively threatening to destroy the very thing they need most. It's like an employee threatening to quit when they're already being paid more than the company can afford, and there are no other jobs waiting. The owners proposed a deal that would make WNBA players some of the highest paid women's professional athletes in the world. An average salary of $500,000 in a league that loses money. And the response was, no, we want revenue sharing. Revenue sharing makes sense in a profitable league. You're arguing over how to divide the pot. But revenue sharing in a league that loses money means demanding a percentage of revenue, while owners absorb 100% of the losses. How is that fair? How is that even logical? If players want revenue sharing, they should also accept loss sharing. Take your cut when revenues rise, and accept pay cuts when revenues fall. That's how real partnerships work. But what they're asking for is the upside without the downside. They want to be treated like owners without taking on any owner risk. January 9th is coming fast. The owners have made their final offer. The players have authorized a strike. And quietly in the background, Project B is watching all of this unfold, ready to sign free agents if the WNBA collapses. This isn't a negotiation anymore. It's a game of chicken. And the side that believes it has the leverage may be about to realize they've been driving toward a cliff the entire time. So here's the question you need to ask yourself. If you were a WNBA owner who has lost money for 28 straight years, who just offered to quadruple player salaries in a league that doesn't generate enough revenue to cover current costs, and the players responded by threatening a strike unless you give them a share of revenue that doesn't exist, would you keep negotiating, or would you cut your losses and walk away? Because that's the decision being made right now. And based on everything we're seeing, the players seem convinced the owners will blink first. They may want to reconsider that assumption. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do the players actually have leverage here, or are they negotiating themselves out of the league? Subscribe for more WNBA coverage as this situation develops, because January 9th is going to be very interesting.